Hi guys, welcome back to another video. So, for today's episode, we will be talking about the different types of corporation in the context of Philippine laws. So, as we are all aware, our corporations are governed by the revised Corporation Code of the Philippines. So, what are we going to feature for today's episode are the different types of corporation and their distinctions. So I know you're all excited, so sit back, relax, and listen. So without further ado, let's just get started.
Good day everyone. So I'll be discussing the different types of corporations, specifically the stock corporation. But first, we need to understand what a stock corporation is. So in a stock corporation, the shareholders contribute capital to the company and are awarded shares which are represented by certificates. So this share may allow them to receive a return on their investment through future dividends. In addition, this share may also give them the voting right or voting power in terms of corporate policy and with regards to the hiring of the directors and other important decisions which are made during the corporation's annual meeting. So since the stock shares are divided up among the investing shareholders, the ownership of the company can really be determined here because the shares are considered transferable property. So for example, if a stockholder owns more than 50% of the corporation share, they have the controlling interest in the corporation's company because they own more than the other stockholders, even if it is combined. So after we define what a stock corporation is, we need to know what a stock is. So a stock, it represents a claim on a company's earnings and assets, which makes it a share of ownership in a company. So as you obtain stocks in one particular company, your ownership stake increases. But there are exceptions to the rule. First, when it is justified by definite corporations' expansion projects or programs that are approved by the board of directors. Second, when it is prohibited from entering into any loan agreement with a financial institution or creditor. And lastly, when such retention is necessary in order to comply with the corporation. So second is the right of appraisal of the stockholder. So this means that the stockholder has the right to demand payment of fair value of his shares after dissenting from a proposed corporate action involving a fundamental change in the charter or articles of incorporation. So in a stock corporation, the stockholders have the following proprietary rights, and these are: first, the right to dividends; second, the right to appraisal; third, the right to inspect; fourth, the preemptive right; fifth, the right to vote; and lastly, the right of first refusal. So we will discuss this one by one. So once the dissenting stockholder exercises his right of appraisal, so what would be the effect? First, the effect would be the rights accruing to such shares, including the voting and dividend rights, shall be suspended. And second, he shall be entitled to the payment of the fair value of his share as agreed upon between him and the corporation. So in the right of appraisal, there is a general rule here, and that is that the stockholder is not allowed to withdraw the demand for payment of his shares. But there is an exception to the rule if the corporation consents to it. So after we know what a stock corporation is, we need to know the difference between a stock corporation versus non-stock corporation. So first, in terms of its purpose, the stock corporation is organized for profit to be enjoyed by the stockholders. On the other hand, a non-stock corporation is organized for purposes other than profit. Second, in terms of the distribution of profits, In a stock corporation, the profits are declared and that they are distributed to the shareholders. On the other hand, in a non-stock corporation, the profits are not distributed but it is used for further purposes. Third, in terms of the composition, the stock corporation is composed of a stockholders, shareholders, or share owners. And on the other hand, the non-stock corporation is composed of members. Lastly, in terms of the governing board, the stock corporation is governed by the board of directors. On the other hand, the non-stock corporation is governed by the board of trustees.
So I will be continuing the report. The next type of corporation is the non-stock corporation. So before proceeding further, let me first give you an outline of what we are going to discuss for non-stock corporation. First, we will know the definition of a non-stock corporation. Second, its purpose or purposes. Third, its characteristics. Fourth, we will distinguish non-stock corporation and stock corporation, and lastly, we will identify the existing non-stock corporation here in our country. So to start with, let us first begin with the definition of a non-stock corporation. So the definition of a non-stock corporation can be found in Section 86 of the Revised Corporation Code of the Philippines. Under the Section 86 of the Revised Corporation Code of the Philippines, a non-stock corporation is a type of a corporation where no part of its income is distributable as dividends to its members, trustees, or officers. So, is the primary purpose of creating a non-stock corporation is it is created for non-profitable purposes. Although under the same provision, there are exceptions to this rule. So if a non-stock corporation obtains a profit incidental to its operations, such profit can be used for the furtherance of the corporation's purpose. Now we will proceed with the purposes of the non-stock corporation. It is governed under Section 87 of the Revised Corporation Code of the Philippines. So, our law recognizes a broad range of activities permitted of a non-stock corporation. So, among which are as follows. So, a non-stock corporation can be formed and organized for any of the following purposes. It could be charitable, religious, educational, professional, cultural, fraternal, literary, scientific, social, civic service, trade and industry, and agricultural. Now we will proceed with the characteristics of a non-stock corporation. First, a non-stock corporation does not have a capital stock dividend into shares, meaning the capital of a non-stock corporation is comprised of the contribution of its members. Second, the income cannot be distributed to its members, as earlier mentioned in Section 86 of the Revised Corporation Code. The income cannot be distributed to the members of a non-stock corporation unless such profit is incidental to its operation, and such profit can be used for the furtherance of the corporation's purpose. Third, a non-stock corporation is not engaged in business with the object of making income or profits directly or indirectly. So, a member of a non-stock corporation has no right to receive material benefits from its operations. Fourth, non-transferability of membership, and lastly, right to vote of members may be limited, broadened, or denied. This is different with stock corporation, because in non-stock corporation, voting, the system of voting of the members, there is one person, one vote. Now we will proceed with the distinction between a stock or non-stock corporation. So there are several points of distinction between a stock corporation and a non-stock corporation. So we will discuss them one by one. First, as to the existence of capital stock, as we have mentioned earlier, a stock corporation has capital stock, dividend into share, while in non-stock corporation does not have a capital stock. So the capital of a non-stock corporation is comprised of the contribution of its members. Second, as to its purpose, the purpose of a stock corporation is for profit, and for non-stock corporation, it is not organized for profit. As to distribution of profit, in stock corporation, profits are distributed to the stockholders. On the other hand, in non-stock corporation, profits are not distributed to its members. As to election of officers, in stock corporation, the officers of a stock corporation is elected by the board of directors and not the stockholders. On the other hand, in non-stock corporation, the officers are elected by the members themselves. So, as to the place of meeting, in a non-stock corporation, the meeting shall be held in the office or the city or municipality where the principal office is located. On the other hand, in non-stock corporation, the meeting shall take place in any place outside the principal office or place of the business, as long as it is within the Philippines. And as to the number of directors and trustees, in stock corporation, the directors and trustees is only limited to 5 to 15 directors or trustees, while in non-stock corporation, it must be not less than 5 and maybe more than 15, although there are exceptions for the educational institutions. Now we will proceed with the existing non-stock corporation here in the Philippines. So, among which are as follows. First, we have cooperatives. So, cooperatives is generally considered as a middle ground entities between a stock and non-stock corporation. This is for the reason that a cooperative may engage for profit activities, and such profit can be distributed to its members. So a cooperative is regulated by the Cooperatives Development Authority. They operate under the principle of mutual cooperation among members for common benefit. It means that each member has equal voting rights, and that each member shall contribute equitably to the cooperative, and they can democratically control the management and administration of the cooperatives. Next, we now go with homeowners association. So the homeowners association is primarily governed by the Magna Carta for homeowners association, and it is regulated by the HLURB, also known as the Housing Land Use Regulatory Board. So in a homeowners association, it is organized by owners or purchasers of a lot or house in a particular subdivision or in a particular area. So it is formed for the mutual benefits of their members, who may enjoy basic community service and facilities. And generally, homeowners association is exempt from tax under the tax code, and the homeowners association may impose reasonable fees for their operations. Lastly, we have condominium corporation. A condominium corporation is a non-stock corporation governed by the Condominium Act. It is formed for the purpose of taking title over the common areas or projects, and as a general rule, a condominium corporation is also exempt from tax under the tax code. The condominium corporation is also duty bound to collect dues from its members, as it may be necessary for the operation of the said non-stock corporation.
So for the next type of corporation, we have special corporations. And under special corporations, we have educational corporations. And what is an educational corporation? It is a stock or non-stock corporation organized to provide facilities for teaching or instruction. Further, such corporation normally maintain a regular faculty and curriculum, and normally have a regular organized body of pupils or students or attendants at the place where the educational activities are regularly carried on. And what is the concept of an educational corporation? Well, as mentioned earlier, it is organized to provide educational facilities for teaching or instruction. And there are two kinds, namely stock educational corporations and non-stock educational corporation. Now let us discuss the incorporation of educational corporations. The filing of articles of incorporation must be accompanied by a favorable recommendation from the Secretary of DepEd or CHED, and such articles of incorporation may also be amended, and such must likewise be certified to as in accordance with the law by the Secretary of the CHED or DepEd. And under Section 25 of Batas Pambansa Bilang 232, otherwise known as the Educational Act of 1982, any private school must incorporate as a non-stock educational corporation in accordance with the provisions of the Corporation Code of the Philippines. Now, what are the rules provided by the Corporation Code regarding the Board of Trustee of an educational corporation? Well, for non-stock educational corporations, the number of trustees shall not be less than 5 or more than 15. It shall be multiples of 5. Example, their number shall be 5, 10, or 15. And unless otherwise provided in the Articles of Incorporation or the bylaws, the terms of office of the trustee shall be staggered with 1 year interval. Now, under special corporations, we also have religious corporations, which have been defined as a corporation composed entirely of spiritual persons and which is erected for the furtherance of a religion or for perpetuating the rights of the church or of the administration of church or religious work or property. And as to its concept, it is a corporation created to secure the public and the worship of God. And as to its kind, we have two kinds. The first, we have corporation sole, which is composed of a single member and his successor in office. And also, it may be formed by the chief, bishop, priest, minister, or other presiding elder religious denomination and the like. And also, we have corporation aggregate, which is composed of several persons. And lastly, we have one-person corporations, which is a corporation with a single stockholder, provided that only a natural person, trust, or an estate may form a one-person corporation. And also under the law, banks and quasi-banks, pre-need, trust, insurance, public and publicly listed companies, and non-chartered, government-owned and controlled corporations may not incorporate as one-person corporations, provided further that a natural person who is licensed to exercise a profession may not organize as a one-person corporation for the purpose of exercising such profession, except as otherwise provided under special laws.
Good evening. To continue, I will be discussing other types of corporation, and one of which is closed corporation. Unlike ordinary corporation, the law permits specific shareholder groups representation in closed corporation. There will be special quorum or voting requirements such that a certain class or number of directors or shareholders may effectively veto certain corporate actions. A closed corporation is one in which Articles of Incorporation provides that first, all the corporation's issued stock of all classes, exclusive of treasury shares, shall be held of record by not more than a specified number of persons, which should not exceed 20. Second, all the issued stocks of all classes shall be subject to one or more specified restrictions on transfer permitted by the provisions on a closed corporation. Third, the corporation shall not list in any stock exchange or any public offering of any of its stock of any class. And lastly, a corporation shall be deemed not a closed corporation when at least 2/3 of its voting stock or voting rights is owned or under controlled by another corporation which is not a closed corporation within the meaning of this code. Note that the stockholders of closed corporation are personally liable for corporate torts unless the corporation has obtained adequate liability insurance. The next type of corporation is foreign corporation. The law permits foreign corporation to do business in the Philippines to facilitate trade. As a rule, the legal personality of the foreign corporations cannot extend beyond the reach of the law creating them. However, by international committee, a country may recognize the effect of such law subject to certain conditions. So the features that make foreign corporation within the coverage of this law is first the place of incorporation, which states that the corporation must be formed, organized, or existing under the foreign law. And the second one is the principle of reciprocity, which allows Filipino citizen to do business in the foreign state or country. This is merely prescribed as a requirement to secure license and not an essential element of being foreign corporation. Lastly, the basis of authority over foreign corporations are: number 1, a corporation may give actual consent to judicial jurisdiction manifested normally by compliance with the state foreign corporation's qualifications and requirements. And second, a corporation, even though not qualified, by engaging in sufficient activity within the state, established judicial jurisdiction over that foreign corporation.
So that ends our Netflix adventure. Thank you guys for watching. See you again next time.